Things ancient humans built that should be impossible. Right now, your phone has more computing power than all of NASA had when they first sent humans to the moon. Most people assume that we are the smartest humans who have ever lived. That's not quite right. There are objects, structures, and substances scattered across this planet that ancient civilizations built thousands of years ago that modern science, with all of its labs and supercomputers and electron microscopes, still cannot fully explain or replicate. Let that sink in for a minute. We can map human genome. We can build telescopes that take pictures of galaxies billions of light years away. But we can't reproduce a sword made by a medieval blacksmith 800 years ago in a small workshop. An empire used a weapon for nearly 1,000 years, of which we cannot tell what it was made. We cannot make concrete as durable as the Romans did with their bare hands 2,000 years ago. And this is where people don't really talk about. These are not myths. These are no legends or ancient folklore, perhaps exaggerated through time. These are tangible things you can feel, things currently sitting in museums, things scientists have dedicated their lives to studying. Real, recorded, unexplained, and every one of them asks the same uncomfortable question. What did the ancients know that we seem to have forgotten? Because the more you read about these discoveries, the more you realize this is not a story about how primitive the past was. This is a story of something much stranger, way more disturbing. And it begins with a rusty hunk of metal in a museum box, sitting there for months, forgotten, until someone takes a second look and thinks, it doesn't belong here. It's 1901. A group of divers is exploring a shipwreck off the coast of Greece. The ship sank around 65 BC. It's been underwater for nearly 2,000 years. Amidst the statues, pottery, and rusted debris, they uncover what looks like a worthless piece of bronze. No one thinks about it. It's packed in a crate, thrown away, and placed in a museum, and everyone ignores it for months. Then one day, a researcher notices that the knot has come loose. And what does he find inside? A whole lot of gears. A device over 2,000 years old with dozens of precisely machined bronze gears that mesh. What they were holding was in effect an analog computer, and not a straightforward one. Now called the Antikythera Mechanism, the device was capable of forecasting solar and lunar eclipses. Watch the movements of 5 planets, find dates of sports events, and model the moon's irregular orbit, which requires extraordinarily complex maths. All that, bottled in something about the size of a shoebox. This is the part that really throws people for a loop. Once this machine was made, humanity didn't make anything remotely as mechanically complex for another 1,400 years. Hundreds of years. 1,400 years of them. That gap is longer than the time between the fall of Rome and today. Scientists have been studying this object for more than a century with CT scans, X-rays, and 3D modeling. They know what it is. They know what it does. Most of them understand how it works. But to reproduce it completely, with all its exactitude, has never been done. And here's the quiet detail that makes all the difference. It was found in a shipwreck, getting transported, which means this wasn't some miraculous invention. Somebody was just casually shipping it across the Mediterranean like any cargo. How many more did it have? How many are still lying at the bottom of the ocean right now? It's 672 AD. A huge fleet was coming toward Constantinople. Hundreds of ships, thousands of troops. The Byzantine Empire is undermanned, outgunned, running out of choices. Then their ships sail out to meet the enemy and let loose something no one has ever seen before. Liquid fire. Projected from tubes on the front of their vessels, spraying over the water like a flamethrower. But this fire was unlike any fire before it. It didn't go out. It was burning on the surface of the water. Sailors who jumped overboard to escape found the flames chasing them into the sea. Whole ships were gone in seconds. The attacking fleet was wiped out. This was Greek fire, and for nearly 800 years, it was the decisive weapon of the Byzantine Empire. It is said that the mere rumor of Greek fire ships in the vicinity was enough to make whole enemy fleets about turn and flee. 800 years. And then in 1453, Constantinople fell, and the formula was completely dead. Not missing in section, not broken up across documents. Vanished. The recipe was the best-kept secret of the Byzantines. Only a few people knew it at any one time. Sworn to silence. Sworn to take it to their graves. And they kept their word. Modern chemists for centuries have tried to reverse engineer it. The main theories are petroleum, sulfur, pitch and quicklime. But nothing that has been made matches all the historical descriptions. A flammable liquid that ignites on contact with water. That sticks to anything. That can't be extinguished. Some of these properties are in direct conflict with one another from a chemistry point of view. That's why no one has cracked it. An empire forged the mightiest weapon of the medieval world and then buried its secret with itself. Somewhere in the Middle East, early Middle Ages, a sword emerges from the blacksmith's workshop. It was not just a sword, but a blade with swirling patterns running across its surface like frozen water. It was sharp enough to slice a falling silk scarf cleanly in half, the weight of the fabric sufficient to separate it. Hard enough to shatter European swords on contact. This was steel from Damascus. And for centuries, nobody could explain what was so remarkable about it. Then, in 2006, scientists at a German university examined pieces of a real Damascus steel sword under an electron microscope, and what they found was gobsmacking. Carbon nanotubes. Cylindrical structures of carbon atoms arranged at the molecular level are among the strongest materials known to modern science. We first discovered carbon nanotubes in 1991. Medieval blacksmiths had been forging them into sword blades 800 years before, not on purpose. It seems that certain ores, forging temperatures and techniques that no one even understood at the time, somehow came together to create the nanotubes. And that is the problem. Around 1750, the ore deposits those blacksmiths relied on dried up. Trade routes moved. The knowledge went away. The technique was forgotten. Every effort since then to make a real Damascus blade, one that matches its internal structure and its real-world performance, has failed. We have made particle accelerators. We have sent robotic probes to Mars. We have mapped the human genome down to the individual base pairs. But we can't make a sword as good as a 12th century smith working in his workshop. That's not a thin line. That's a statement about something much deeper, something that ties right into what the Romans were quietly doing with concrete. There's a building in Rome that has stood for nearly 2,000 years, despite earthquakes, despite floods, despite wars, despite the gradual decline of the entire civilization that built it. Yet, this building remains the same today, and its name is the Pantheon. It has the world's largest unreinforced concrete dome, built in AD 125, and that's the genuinely uncomfortable part. Modern concrete, the kind we build highways, bridges, and skyscrapers out of, starts to break down in about 50 years. We spend billions of dollars every year on concrete maintenance just because what we make today cannot live through what the Romans built with their bare hands 2,000 years ago. For centuries, nobody could explain why. The basic recipe was known: ash from volcanoes, seawater, lime. But the results did not account for knowing what had gone into it. Then, in 2023, scientists at MIT solved part of the mystery. Inside Roman concrete are tiny white chunks called limeclasts, which had been dismissed as imperfections in the mixing process. They weren't failings. When the concrete cracks and water seeps in, these limeclasts dissolve, then recrystallize, automatically filling the damage from inside. Roman concrete is self-healing. The material literally self-repairs when it comes into contact with moisture. That's why Roman harbors built directly into the sea have outlasted most modern structures built on dry land. Today, the seawater destroys everything we build. It strengthened Roman concrete. Scientists are trying to reverse engineer this for use in modern construction. But mass-producing it has been extraordinarily difficult. The Romans used a very specific volcanic ash with chemical properties that cannot be replicated with modern materials. So the Pantheon just stands there in Rome, silently and patiently, surviving everything we've built since. And it doesn't end there. Not even near. A society in southern Peru went into the desert around 500 BC and began sketching. Not little sketches. A 150-foot wide spider. A hummingbird whose wings are longer than a city block. Straight lines that stretch across an open desert for miles. The lines of Nazca. This is the part that no one can get past. Only from the air are they completely visible. From the ground, they appear to be sporadic dirt scrapes. They resolve into finely sized, well-designed figures when viewed from above. The Nazca people lacked airplanes. No balloons. There is currently no technology that would enable people to view their own work from above. Nevertheless, the proportions are perfect. The Lycurgus cup is another. An ancient Roman drinking cup from the 4th century AD that glows green in reflected light and becomes blood crimson when light enters from behind. After examining the glass, scientists discovered that it was embedded with precisely 50 nanometer diameter gold and silver nanoparticles and nanotechnology deliberate and under control, inside a 1700-year-old Roman drinking cup. The Voynich manuscript is another, a 240-page book written in a language no one has ever been able to identify, sometime in the 1400s. It was researched by codebreakers during World War II. The NSA investigated it. It has been examined by contemporary AI. Not a single word has been decoded. The text exhibits consistent linguistic patterns, indicating that it is not random nonsense, but rather a legitimate language. It is just located in the library of Yale University. 240 pages. Absolutely quiet. By themselves, each of these would be outstanding. When taken as a whole, they suggest something about themselves that most individuals aren't yet ready to acknowledge. This is a question no one really asks. The question isn't how all these things were created, but the question is, why can't we do it? They never had the tools we have. They never developed the maths we have. Understanding the physical universe at the atomic level is the focus of entire scientific disciplines. Even yet, we are utterly humbled as we stand in front of a 2,000-year-old structure, a medieval sword, and a rusty bronze machine. This is the insight that alters your perspective on everything. For generations, we have believed that human history is a straight line upward, that things become more basic the further back you go. It is a skill that develops over time. That everything that came before us was merely practice, and that we are now at the top. These items indicate otherwise. They contend that genuine, profound, problem-solving human intelligence was never primitive. It was present at all times. The capacity was not altered. What was lost and what was passed down was altered. Consider the implications of that. Knowledge burnt with every fall of an empire. A method disappeared each time an artisan passed away without imparting knowledge to others. Every time a formula was kept under wraps for an extended period of time, it was lost forever. We are not at the pinnacle of human accomplishment. Looking back at things our own species previously understood but no longer do, we stand on the brink of a huge chasm. Furthermore, the disparity is not getting smaller. It is still expanding in several respects. This is a question that is significantly more disturbing than any mystery from antiquity. What information are we currently losing that will take centuries for future civilizations to replenish if ancient humans were able to lose so much?